أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. As we said in the last video, the Tassawuf in the olden days was seen as something common. It's an important part of Islamic belief. In modern days, people often challenge the validity of the Tassawuf or ilm al-Ihsan. And the fact of the matter is that without the Tassawuf or ilm al-Ihsan, our faith is incomplete. Now, our aim in this video is to briefly outline in a short period of time some of the facts surrounding the Tassawuf. So without going too much into details, there is a hadith pack which is also known as Hadith Jibreel. Now in this hadith pack, as Jibreel al-Islam appear before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and sit in the position of Tashhad and ask several questions. And those questions are on three areas, one of which is Iman, Islam and Ihsan. The question regarding Iman was based on the clarification of existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Day of Judgment and the belief in the angels. The question on Islam was based on praying 5 times a day, fasting, doing Hajj, Zakat, spending in the way of Allah. And finally was Ihsan, how to pray, what kind of state a person has to be when in a state of Salah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that a person needs to be in the state of Ihsan, which means that he either is able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whilst praying, or if that is not possible, then he has to have this ability to think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching him. Now, all these three elements that was discussed in that hadith back are connected to the internal structure of human mind and body. The knowledge that we gain from books touches upon the exterior elements. Now, would not allow us to have the ability to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala either watching us or we are watching him when we are in the state of prayer. Because the presence of the presence of a pure heart is very important. Clean and pure heart is very important for the purity of these three things. When the heart is split between the love for dunya and the awareness of the life after this and the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when these things are split, it's as if one foot is on a boat and the other foot is offshore. So the balance is not complete. Therefore, only when these three things become right, it's only then our faith is complete. And these things will not be complete if we have diseases of the heart, which includes the love for this dunya. Because this heart is, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that he has only created one heart. And you can only have one love in it. A complete and sincere love must be for one. It's either for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or for dunya. When we do everything in this dunya for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that creates a balance. But when we have love for dunya and pretend that we love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that creates imbalance. Because everything that we do, we must have this clarity in our heart that we are doing it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then that becomes a worship. For example, when we go to work to earn our living, we go to work so that we earn halal living, because it's a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to go out and earn halal living so that you could feed your family, feed yourself. Every single part, every single act connected with dunya, when we are in the state of love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, becomes a worship, because we are doing everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our behavior towards our parents, our behavior towards our children, our behavior towards our wife or husband, everything, our conduct towards them is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to behave in a certain way towards them. And that all becomes a part of worship. Not only just that, when we eat, when we sleep, when we awake, sitting down, standing up, if we do everything, for example, when we go to sleep, if we have this mentality that we need to give ourselves a rest so that we could become fresh to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a better state, then that becomes part of the worship. So we are living in this dunya, but we're living in this dunya and doing everything to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that becomes a part of our worship. Worship isn't just limited to reciting Quran Kareem, praying 5 times a day, fasting, or going for Hajj, or giving poor people money. Yes, these are obligatory acts, we must do them. But there are other things, everything that we could do, our coexistence becomes a worship. But to gain that state, to gain that level, we have to have the purity of the heart. The heart must be clean. And one of the things that the shaitan attempts to control is the heart, is the qalb. The qalb is the center of human body. And he knows that if he controls that part, then he ultimately has control of everything. But if we occupy our qalb in the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the shaitan doesn't get anywhere near close to it. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ.